Hey guys, what's up? My name's Grant Borland, and today I want to make a video based on a YouTube comment I got the other day. I posted a video a couple weeks ago that was talking about, 6 sample libraries beginner trailer composers should start out with or consider getting when gathering a collection of libraries to start with. Anyways, on that video, I had a comment from a guy named Tim Auergen. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Auergen. But anyways, he asked me if it was possible if I could make a video on how to layer drums for stuff in trailers. He said he always struggles with that, and I didn't have a video about that kind of thing at the time, but I do have some songs that were sitting on my hard drive that have not been published with any publisher. They were just written, kind of for myself as practice or whatever, kind of save it for a rainy day thing if anything came through. But I had some like sound design percussion type trailer tracks that I, kind of just wrote for fun. And I figured today would have been a perfect opportunity to dig into those tracks and maybe kind of take a look at, how I layer drums. There's lots of mixing tutorials out there, and I don't necessarily want this to be a mixing tutorial. I'll share some things, but I think more importantly, I kind of want to share like concepts behind how to layer drums, rather than being like, hey, use this plugin here, use that plugin there, you want to use this compressor or this reverb or this saturator, so on and so forth. Because really, mixing this stuff is all pretty personal to you too and what sounds good to your ears. So I kind of want to try to stay away from specific plugins, because really I think for me personally, concepts help me more than just basically having a shopping list of plugins that I have to get, because that's not really that helpful in the grand scheme of things. I'm gonna play through this track. Like I said, it's like a sound design percussion track. It's pretty well finished. I may go back and fix some things. I brought this session up from quite a while ago, so I listened to it today before filming the video, but even listening to it now, I feel like there's some things I could probably improve. So just know that this isn't released with anyone, but it's it's kind of a look into my process when, writing these types of tracks. So anyways, let's jump into Logic, and I'll show you the session. So here we go. Here's the session we have. It looks pretty chaotic. Things are not extremely well organized, and honestly, that's kind of my process. Like, I know some people have to stay organized and they have to color code everything as they go. For me, I feel like I just lose my inspiration, and I kind of lose that creative steam if I'm always thinking about, oh, this has got to be organized, that's got to be organized. This is kind of the raw look at how my sessions look, and then I kind of clean things up when I get ready to like bounce things out and stem it for publishers and whatnot. But this is pretty terrifying looking right now. I call it organized chaos or something like that. But anyways, let's listen to the track right now, and then we'll dive into the drum sound and the drum layering, and I'll kind of explain my thoughts on, how I layer this kind of thing. So anyways, here we go. Alright, so there's the track. Like I said, sound design, percussion, hybrid, sort of trailer track. These kind of things are good for, a plethora of different things, trailers, TV spots, even like some commercials and things like that too. I know I've done some albums where I've written tracks like this, and these types of percussion tracks kind of end up all over. Looking at like TuneSat reports and BMI statements and stuff like that, it's kind of interesting to see where these types of tracks end up, because you write this and you think it's all aggressive and it's going to be used for this kind of crazy trailer, that kind of crazy trailer, and before you know it, you get a BMI statement and it's on like some random cooking show in Germany. So just know that these are pretty versatile tracks for sync licensing too. But anyways, let's go ahead, take a look at the drum sound. So I'm going to highlight, instead of playing the whole track, I'm going to highlight kind of this more back end section, because I think that's when the drums really start to ramp up. I feel like the first half of this track is more of a setting the tone with signature sounds and other bits of interesting sound design, and then as the track builds up, the percussion starts to get thicker and more intense. So I'm going to highlight this back end area, and I'm just going to solo the percussion and hits, because the hits are a big part of the trailer drum sound too, using them as accents and things like that. So here's just the drum and hit stem for you. So there you go. Pretty high energy track, honestly, from everything. The sound design. You have these pings that are just screaming at you, and then the drums are just like kind of unrelenting. They're just insane, kind of. So that's what I was going for. So let me pull away the hits really quick, and I think what I want to talk about with my drum layering is really the thing that's important to keep in mind for layering drums is kind of like the timbre of each instrument. So you're going to have some drum sounds that are like low frequency material. You're going to have some that are like mid-range, and you're going to have some that are high range. And kind of the trick is to balance all those. I think mixing things becomes a lot easier if your arrangement of your instruments is there. It gives you a lot less work on making a more convincing drum sound. So what I like to think about is some of my high rhythms, or like the fast rhythms, are going to be dedicated to more higher percussion. So that could be anything from like snares to sticks to things like that top end. Sometimes really like crushed drum sounds too. You bring out a lot of that high end, and those are sometimes good to layer for fast repetitive notes. And for the low percussion, I kind of keep those not as fast. I feel like if you got a low patch and you're sitting there and you're drumming a really quick like 16th note pattern or whatever, it's going to start to kind of sound a little bit like clustered and muddy, and things won't sound as clear. So it's kind of nice to separate that. If you're going to have the high fast drum sounds, you want those to be in the higher register, and then you kind of want those lower drum sounds to be a bit slower. You think about a drum kit too, it's a good way to think about it. Generally, you're going to have maybe a kick drum doing a certain pattern that's a little bit slower than, say, your snare. If you kind of think of like like a random 4/4 time signature, just really basic drum beat that's kind of just doing a 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. You're gonna have that kick, going a lot slower than, say, your hi-hat or your snare or something. So those kind of things are very important to keep in mind when arranging drums too. So if I kind of dig into some of these sounds, you're gonna kind of hear that. For example, some of my higher sounds are gonna sound a little bit faster. So that's a keep force patch right there. And so even with like this Damage Armageddon patch, I still have a lot of more high frequency information. Okay, and then for example, some of the lower stuff are going to be like this punch percussion track, and then this Decimator Drums Epic 2 patch, which is now, I believe, called Cerberus. It's by Audio Imperia, but I'm still using Decimator Drums, which was the old version of that. So yeah, these are going to be things that are a little bit slower. I mean, they're not like super slow, but they're just more of that like consistent hit, rather than these kind of like little like triplets and things like that. I leave that to more of the high range instruments. I feel like I'm talking too much. Here's what it sounds like. And then layer that together. There you go. So you can kind of see how that starts filling out. The drum beat still sounds fast, but you've kind of got that high end and you've got that low end treated, so it starts to sound more full. And that's kind of how I apply it to other hits and other layers I add in the percussion. So for example, I've got these other layers, sound like this. Kind of more metallic, tingy hits. That's a loop there. And I've actually treated that with Soothe to kind of tame some of those really high, harsh frequencies, but that's kind of that there. So with just the percussion bits, what you're hearing is this. So cool, great drum sound, but if I were making a track, I think I would want to take this a step farther. And I think a good way to do that is to bring in trailer hits. So we heard the drums, so just the hits alone are going to sound like this. So those are the hits. And I kind of like to think of the hits as something that doesn't have to be, like, I think of them almost as like crash cymbals or something. If you think about a beat, sometimes you're going to have those come in on, every 4 bars or whatever the case is, depending on the beat. That's kind of how I think about hits. I kind of treat them as crash cymbals in a sense. And I think keeping them spread out like that almost makes them sound a little bit more impactful. So we listen to the drums themselves, but layering that with the hits, you kind of just get this over-the-top trailer drum sound. So there you go. That's kind of the full drum and hit sound, which kind of gives it that full trailer sound for the percussion itself. So that's kind of the gist of it. However, I kind of want to briefly talk about a couple things that are important to note. And with this, it's going to be kind of loosely general mixing tips when it comes to percussion. And if I kind of just pull this up, let me just pull this up in the mixer window. So here it is. I mean, really there's some EQ going on with a lot of these, but not a crazy amount of processing. I've got it sent to some different buses, which I believe if I go down, it's going to be, kind of parallel compression. I got a drum dirt bus, which I believe was a tip from Andrew Sheps. I could be wrong on that. This track's probably about a year old now. But I think basically what I'm doing with this stem is I'm kind of incorporating some saturation and almost a little bit of distortion to the drums itself, but I'm kind of running it parallel, so you kind of have that natural blend of super processed and natural sound as well. And then I'm also sending it to, kind of a drum reverb, which I think is just Valhalla room. So really basic mixing on these drums, but like I said, I feel like you make your life easier when you layer these drums or you arrange it in a proper way. It kind of makes the mixing a little bit easier. But some things to keep in mind is, like, for example, I've got this Armageddon patch. Right, so the way I've kind of EQ'd this is I've cut this range. It's 166 hertz, but usually I'd say around 150 to 200 hertz, that kind of general area. You'll a lot of times build up a lot of muddy frequencies. So if I'm listening to like a drum stem or something and I feel like it's getting kind of muddy, I think one of the first areas I go to is going to be this general range. So let me go, since I've cut it, I'm going to play the drum track and then I'm going to kind of bring in that 166 hertz, and you can kind of hear what frequencies I thought sounded bad and why I wanted to cut it and kind of clean it up. So those are the frequencies. It kind of sounds more like this, kind of muffled, kind of it kind of sounds bad. So I think cleaning that range up is important. A lot of these instruments, like a lot of the higher stick sounds and whatnot, you're not going to be running into that clash. But some of the lower drums and whatnot, you want to make room for it. And if you've got a lot competing in that area, like not even percussion, it could be synths or strings or brass or all the other instruments that could be in that range of instruments, that frequency range is going to fill up really quick, and it's just really important to kind of clean that up. So that's kind of the gist of it there. A little bit of OTT on that too, to just kind of saturate it, kind of distort it a little bit, add a little bit of high frequency information, kind of hype it up a little bit. This is a free plugin too, so I think it's definitely worth checking out. I think another one that's important, or another one that's good for mixing with, is Decapitator by Soundtoys. That's one I use a lot now, ever since I picked it up. That's really good on drum sounds too. And then from there, it's just just a compressor. But really, really basic processing on this. But like I said, it's more in the arrangement itself that kind of makes it sound more convincing. So let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and I'll play kind of the other tracks too without the drums, so you can kind of hear some of the sound design behind it, which I think is kind of a fun bit too. I love that ping or sting or whatever you want to call it. It's this, I call it stinger in this track, but it's called Valak. I feel like that always cuts through. That's actually a sample I made myself, and it's in my Tantrum sample pack, but I think that I was writing this track before I put that sample pack out, and I was just in love with that sound. Actually what it is, it's a distorted bike bell. I just took a little, just a general little bike bell and recorded it with my Zoom recorder, and then just processed the daylights out of it. But kind of a fun fact for you. It's fun to add your own sound design into your tracks. So that's kind of a personal thing for me. But anyways, guys, I don't know. That's kind of a general overview on how I would layer trailer drums. I hope that's helpful. I hope it helps you out too, just kind of talking more about concepts rather than being like, hey, get this plugin, get that plugin. because I think it's really important to sometimes just, you know, train your ear to hear those kinds of things. And if you have those concepts in mind, yeah, the plugins help you get there, but I feel like you'd almost know how to use plugins more properly if you have these like concepts kind of ingrained in your head. You know, it's more about arrangement, and then mixing becomes easier. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you guys want to see anything else. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.